on, everybody? We are live. It is Brick and I today. We were delayed ever so slightly because we thought Jason was joining us, but he's not home. Brick and I are in the same time zone, so when we say a time, we understand what that time means. And I think Jason isn't always 100% sure what time it is, even where he is. So he will probably be joining us before too long, but he might not. So
you're stuck with us again,
yeah.
as it started.
Sorry to disappoint if you came for Jason and you just got us. But yeah, what's going on, Brick? How you been?
I've been good, man. As you probably know, it's been a busy day of streaming, but it's also this Wednesday is a big deal for my channel and for me personally. It's the anniversary of the channel, 2nd year, woohoo, 2 years, and it's also my 48th birthday. So put those together, that's half a century of stuff.
Yo, yikes.
Anyway, it's a good day. It's a good day.
Old.
I'm happy to be here, man. We've been old, but it's a good day to be here. This is the Toy Life Crisis, so it's great. Happy to talk to AWOK. Absolutely.
I was
happy to.
Just as an aside, this is like nothing related to toys or anything, but just related to getting old. I had swim trunks on today. I was, we were gonna do the pool thing, and I thought, man, I look my age. I was like, well, I am that age, so I guess it's not the end of the world. It doesn't really matter, but
of course.
But it's like there's that weird thing that happens, right? Where when you're 20, you think somebody that's 40 is old and that they look old, and that when you're 40, you're like, I don't feel old and I don't feel like I look that old. And then I go, but 20-year-olds probably think I look old and probably still think I'm old. So it's like, it's just perspective, right? And so it's just really funny to, you get there and you go, yeah, I was an idiot. But those idiots still think that way because they're 20 and they don't know any better. So
I'll say real quick on this note, like I teach, as you know, I teach high school. So since I started teaching, which was I was first in the classroom 2001, I've been teaching sort of the same age group. And it's like, oh, I meet their parents and they're still older than me. And then at a certain point, the kids stay the same age, but then their parents
are younger,
get younger and younger. And I'm like, oh, hi. So anyway, it's all good because at the end of the day, we got toys to keep us young. We got toys to keep us young. We got all the nerdy stuff to keep us young, and whatever. And we've got the bonus of wisdom. So
yeah, we can reflect upon our idiocy now more objectively and just with a little bit more a critical eye, and apply that to how we buy toys or not. We probably just
no
buy them pretty
why'd you have to go there? Yeah, I've been watching you the last couple of weeks and you're like, why I can't collect everything? And I was like, oh man, I can't. Oh, I should be listening to him, but I can't.
Well, I mean, full disclosure, you went to Japan. My wife was like, sort of out of nowhere. My wife was like, so my wife is half Japanese. Sorry, a quarter Japanese, which makes half Japanese, which makes my kids quarter Japanese. My kids don't look Japanese at all, so it's going to be really confusing when my blonde hair, blue-eyed son explains to people he's a quarter Japanese. But that's his problem, not mine. But she wants to go to Japan now, so I'm like, okay, if I don't buy toys for a year, we could have a fantastic trip to Japan. I know how much I spend, and I'm like, if I don't buy anything, like that's all I gotta do, and I don't have to like change anything else. And I'm like, that's not possible. Okay, so how do I manage, other things and buy less things for like a year so that I can go to Japan and buy toys? So anyway, that's part of my sort of perspective right now.
Yeah, figure out how to make it happen, because I know we've talked about it before, and I know you've got a love for the culture, and I know you would.
You'd
enjoy being back,
and I would love to take my kids there, and like my kids, because they have Japanese ancestry, like they know about Japanese culture, and they have relatives that are much more Japanese than their mom. And so it would just be really, really cool. I have a very, very good friend who who is Japanese. Like he's born in Japan.
Mhm.
So we're trying to coordinate with them to like go with them because I love his parents. Like his parents have been here, and
Yeah.
they're so rad, and I just would love to get to hang with
All
them.
right.
So,
Let's make it happen. Go, go,
anyways,
go. Super chat him, folks. Help him to Japan.
yeah, yeah, support my trip to Japan and not affect my toy buying budget. That's the most, man. I'll say this too. Like, I'm not good at YouTube because like I just do this for fun. And when people
Mhm.
are like, here's what you need to do to like grow your
It's
subscriptions, I'm
hard.
like, I don't even
Mhm.
care. Like, I don't
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
don't look at those numbers and I don't pay attention. I probably
Yeah.
should. I don't know. Should I? Maybe not.
No,
But
you're doing
anyways,
great.
it,
We're having fun. That's what it's there. That's why I
that's
did
it,
it.
man.
It's
That's
filling
it.
that. Yeah,
Is
that's it.
like we're having fun. We're in a position now where we're gonna get to share Animal Warriors of the Kingdom stuff that we get to
Woo.
see because we've done these videos for so long that Jason just shows us things. But anyways,
Let's do it.
nobody is here to hear us talk about teaching and traveling. I think everybody's here to talk about toys. So let's say hello to the chat very quickly. The Collecting Brothers is here. Always John. I don't know if it's not John, that would be a shock to me. But Red 5 is here. Mythic Dolphin. Stars hanging out. Eric Dryja. I never know what, I can't remember what the pronunciation is. Rape, he messaged me and said it's this, and I was like, okay, got it, and I forget. Ray Paz is here. Scott Baker is here. Mythic Dolphin, very good point. AWOK Comics 4 and 5 pre-sales are now up with UK-based eBay sellers. I don't know how they have pre-sales for issue 5. It's coming. I mean, it's gonna be available through comic book shops. It's should be in solicitations pretty soon. I don't know exactly timeline wise how those work. But yeah, they're in there. They're submitted. There's not going to be a delay this time. So JMax77 is here as well. Scott Baker says Jason not being home probably just means a better connection. It might. He should be at the coffee shop doing all his videos.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
He did look a bit worried on that screenshot. I love that picture of Jason, and I will use it every chance I get. Because it's just, he got rid of those glasses too, so that like those glasses were initially just a joke. But they suit him to a T, so I thought it was pretty funny. A couple people talking about how they're 40. JMax70 says, and yep, I'm in my 40s and my kids think I'm old man Jenkins. That's my 8-year-old said to my wife and I, she's like, you know what? Sometimes I argue with you guys. You guys are pretty cool. And I was like, so stop arguing with us. It was just a weird moment. But anyway. Star says, I'm so used to growing up being around older kids. Now I'm talking to folks about the old days and they're 20 years younger than me. Yep, that's the way it works. 1-6 shooter is here. What's going on, Trevor? Good to have you, buddy.
What's up, Trevor?
Solo Sinner. Just doing my
Let's get him there. Let's get him there, Solo Sinner. Thank you.
I'm just irresponsible. If I could just be a little bit more responsible, we could make that trip happen. It's probably gonna happen. But anyways, I appreciate the super chat every time, Solo Center. You are very, very generous. Started the super chat purchase before you mentioned it. Well, I appreciate it either way. You're awesome, and it's very, very cool that anybody cares enough to watch this, let alone super chat. Ray Pass says, I enjoy your channel. We all get to chit chat. It's great. That's what it's about, right? Like it's about hanging out and chatting and having fun. So Timmy T is here as well. Collecting Brothers. Yeah, it's me, John. My Buddy's Customs is here as well. And he says that his niece called him old, and he's 38. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? What can you do?
It's glorious. Seriously, we talked about it. Like I'm old enough to have seen the stuff that I used to be slightly embarrassed about in certain circles to transformed into like, this just is, and it's awesome. So life is good. Life is good.
Yeah, I was we were out hanging out with friends, sort of friends of my wife. I know them, but I met them through my wife. We were hanging out on the lake, and I was explaining toy companies, and it was like, this was like, if I was, you know, between sort of 12 and 25, there's no way I would have said anything about toys. But it's like, now I'm like, it's what I do.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, and I don't care. Like you said, it's sort of like,
No.
yeah, I got nothing to prove to anybody anymore.
Yeah.
And Star, that's very, very kind of you. You and Brick do the best shows on the web. We're all here as proof. Very much appreciate that. Oz is here as well. What's going on, Oz? Good to have you. All right, let's get into some AWOK talk, i.e. monkey business. Not a whole lot going on, you know, in the public eye, as you and I know, Brick. There's a whole lot going on behind the scenes. There's a whole lot of stuff happening. There's sculpting happening. There's tooling happening. There's, you know, business end stuff happening. The most recent thing that I've been working on is setting up sort of like the retailer sales order sheet, because full transparency, before that, people would just email us and be like, hey, can I get 5 of these? And we'd be like, yep. And we create an order for them. But there's a better way to do that. And sort of me, in my sort of background as working in retail and inventory management and purchasing, I just basically copied and pasted every order sheet that I've ever used. And then we kind of put some cool pictures on it and put some logos on it, and away you go. I did, and I will say this because Brick, you mentioned that you sort of pointed this out, and I had been sort of neglecting the some of the questions on the Kickstarter page, just because I've been busy with other things. But somebody was asking about the alternate heads. They said, hey, you guys said if we sort of augmented our Kickstarter backing and got over $300, that we would get the alternate heads. And I said to you and to Jason, I was like, I knew there was something that I had forgotten to do, and I had meant to do it sort of the week after it closed, once cards got processed, but I had totally forgot. So I did that today. 89 people got an upgrade. Got that bonus there, so it should be in there. And I messaged the person that commented, and hopefully it's there. Just, it looks like it's there on my end, but you know, if for whatever reason it's not, people can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to fix it. It's easy enough to do it. So that's been done. Series 2 Wave 1 has gone up for pre-order for you know, the public to get their orders in. Which is pretty exciting. I personally haven't actually looked at the numbers. My guess is that Gresh is probably the one that's gonna get the most sell through, at least sort of right off the jump. But pretty exciting that these are now sort of out there, and we're sort of moving into the like second phase of Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. I still, admittedly, I'm still like, okay, I want one more Pale and one more Kali. But but I'm getting to the end of like figures that oh no, that's not true.
Wait, do you mean variants like that haven't been made yet that you want to see?
No, like things that I want in my collection. Like I want to,
okay.
So I still want to, I've recently decided I want a Pale to keep in box.
Okay, gotcha.
And then I want another Kali for some customizing that I want to do for some kit bashing. But I'm finally sort of getting to the end of available figures that I don't want any more of.
Gotcha.
And so it's kind of cool that it's like, now I want all of these, and I need, you know, 2 of that one and 2 of that one and 6 of that one and so on. And it's just like, so it's just this nice, it's paced really nicely. I will say this, and you know, I've said this before about, you know, the way that Jason set it up is he doesn't want to just put out like 30 figures every 3 months and have people struggle to be able to like keep up with everything. So I think the pace that things are coming out, as much as I think we'd like them to be quicker, economically speaking, this is way easier, and it doesn't lead to like resentment of like, well, I can't afford everything. Like, I wish they would slow
Mhm.
down. We've still got wave 5 that will wave 4 to arrive and get shipped. Wave 5 just went up for pre-order. And that will be sort of shipped after wave 4. Obviously, that's logistically how that works. But then this will effectively be like legacy wave 6 probably. So these aren't that far off either, and I think by the time we get to these getting shipped, we're gonna be like, well, that was quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just really, really exciting. I'm very excited about these. I'm probably more excited about like the second and third waves from the second Kickstarter personally, but I'm
Yeah.
really excited to get all these.
That's the funny thing about it. You're absolutely right that if you are not a person who, say, jumped in and did like an all in on the Kickstarter of all
Mhm.
these figures, like, and you're gonna sort of wait wave to wave, it is a manageable. It's one of the more
Mhm.
manageable lines to collect. The tricky thing becomes for those of us who are like, oh, I want the deal, which was a fantastic deal, and we
Yeah.
want to support Spiro and make sure that like we do get these things done by supporting the Kickstarter.
Mhm.
You're like, oh man, that was a huge chunk, and now I gotta wait. On the other hand, this is like however many hundreds of dollars of figures that I don't have to spend
Yes.
if you can tell yourself not to like keep buying other things at the same time, right? But yeah, it's a trip. Like the way figures are bought and sold these days is just it's amazing. It's just it's not something that I would have foreseen at all. And that said, going back to what you think, do you think Gresh will be popular? I agree. I wonder about Oxidus only because I think there's that sort of like recency bias where I think he was sort of new to, he's going to
That's
be
true.
brand new to a lot of people who had no idea, who hadn't been following the Kickstarter, and
Mhm.
were just like, wait, who's this figure? And there's been a couple of people like that, like, whoa, did you see that thing? I was like, oh yeah, that's funny. I never really stepped out of the bubble to think about
Yeah.
folks that weren't following the Kickstarter and
Mhm.
stuff who were just like, did you see that giant ox?
Mhm.
And so I also say like, when we posted this, I remember working on the the announcement and the MailChimp stuff, and just being like, oh wow, this is actual like confirmation for some folks who were wondering, will we actually get Oxidus earlier? Are we gonna have to wait? And this is like,
Yes.
oh, here you go. Nope, Oxidus is coming, and it
He's
is
gonna
for me.
fit. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's gonna fit. It's not gonna cause any delays. I guess the factory said that this number of figures and this number of molds and things is manageable. So
Yep.
there you go. You don't have to wait. He was like the second to last thing unlocked, and he'll be right there. I mean, most of the tooling is right there with the other figures. But even more than that, and we've said this before, like, the void will come out before this wave comes out. And so that's most of the tooling for the brawler buck.
Right.
Um, so yeah, there's sort of a head start in that respect, which part of the reason, as I've said before, that this wave will get out as quickly as it will is because that brawler buck will be technically used for wave 5, and then that
Mhm.
reptile buck is really the new buck in this wave. There's molds to make the accessories and the heads and things like that for the other characters, but the full body mold, there's really only that reptile represented in this wave as something that's sort of brand new for this wave, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
um a few people sort of agreeing and just sort of chiming in. And Solo Center says, agree on the cadence of figures being released feels manageable. Will be good to fill the space between them with some kind of lore output. We're gonna catch up to that, right? Like, that's the thing is there's been the delay because issue 5 didn't come out, which wraps up that story arc. And then the change from Jason just putting it out through the website to actually having Diamond distribution getting this to a wide release. So I think we're going to see a more steady flow of the comic books, and then that lore will sort of lead the way in some respects. Like, by the time we get the second story arc wrapped up, people are probably going to be like, I want this character now, and I want this character now. And it's sort of
Yeah.
like, okay, well, you're getting the characters that we're sort of seeing, and so keeping that nice pacing of introducing characters and having them come out in physical form, I think is pretty important to Jason. So there's like we said, there's other characters that he intends to make that people haven't necessarily even seen yet. So it's just a matter of time before those things kind of level out a little bit better.
Yep.
JMax77 says, hoping to load up on AWOK at Legions Con. So many fun figures. Absolutely. Legions Con is going to be a lot of fun. I think a lot of people are probably going to pick up I think a lot of people are going to pick up Mythic Legions figures. I think a lot of people are going to pick up AWOK figures as well. Last year we had lots of people that, didn't necessarily know the line or sort of picked one up for customizing and kit bashing. Yeah. And I think we'll probably get that again, but I think we're going to have a lot more people that sort of know and love Animal Warriors of the Kingdom coming to chat with us and pick up a couple more things at the table. So that's going to be really, really cool. Looking forward to that.
Yep.
Star says, trying to figure out why that Kali Prime looks more gorilla than the gorillas do. Probably just my old eyes. I think it might be in the anger. I think maybe there's sort of like a silverback, angry looking gorilla face thing that's a little more gorilla than like Thane is. Thane, Thane just in by his nature is probably a gentler gorilla than Kali is. So I think maybe it's probably just down to that. Solo Sinner says, like, a character design and bio post on Instagram, world building elements like a map, etc., just to keep it in the zeitgeist. We have, I think you and I, Brick, have even talked about that on videos. Like, it would be cool to have sort of a wiki type page, and Spiro Toys has technically has a couple websites, and we just haven't utilized all the website domains that we have.
That was on my list of like something that like I've been wanting to help with, but just capacity wise hasn't quite happened. But
yeah,
I would love that. Like, I think there's, and the interest is exactly what Solo Sinner is saying. It's sort of like to keep it in the zeitgeist and kind of roll that out, and also to remind people what you and I have tried to do with our channel is just sort of like there's a whole lore and a whole world behind it. But also ultimately just give people a landing place that, they might not want to sit through you and me talking about the comic book, of course,
6 hours,
but like they just want to go in and sort of poke around and, or in Instagram, have it fed to them weekly of like, hey, here's Pale, here's a little bio. I don't know. It's definitely something that is worth the investment of time, energy, and resources. I don't know. It's something I want to see happen. Like, I love the Four Horsemen website. You can get lost on those, whether it's cosmic or mythic, and just kind of get into the character bios, factions. I love that stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. And you're 100% right.
Yeah, and we're right there with you. Like, but as Brick, as Brick said, it's a bandwidth issue. It's a capacity issue. It's sort of like, I think people forget that there's literally 4 people that are being paid, under the Spiro Toys company.
Yeah, or just don't know. I mean, you just,
and it's just hard. I mean, there's a lot of things we want to do, and we're just trying. I guess part of it is like, if we charged another $10 per figure, then more people could be employed, and you might see stuff like that. But that's the trade-off, right? Well, that's the thing, is that like I think the goal is for these toys to be relatively affordable and relatively accessible and things like that. And so by extension, some things like that just don't get as much investment in sort of time and urgency and stuff like that. So as I said, we're still trying to get the line out there, the brand out there, get the toys out there. Solo Sinner says, did anyone in Canada get items from Wave 3? I don't know that I don't, like, as far as retailers go, I'm not sure. It's, and I was talking to Brick about this before, like we're trying to get the business end of Spiro Toys a little more dialed in, and part of that is like questions like this. When are things getting shipped, and where, and how quickly, and all that kind of stuff is kind of things that we're focused a little bit more on, right now. The Kickstarter is done, the backer kit is done, and now it's, how can we tweak things? How can we improve things? How can we make things get to customers faster? What do customers want to see more of? What do customers want to see less of? All that kind of stuff. So but it's a process, and it's a process that takes time. And we want to do it right rather than just do it. So once we do things like, the world building stuff, expect that it'll be fairly well thought out, because that's sort of the problems. Like, we could put out one piece of that, and then you don't see anything for a long time afterwards, and then it's sort of more frustrating. So we want to have it set where we can have a good schedule for it, and make sure that we're doing a good job with it, rather than, as I said, just doing it for the sake of checking a box, right?
Yep.
Star says, think there will be maps of the explored regions and the boundaries of the various kingdoms. I would love that. And we've talked about that on AWOK Talk, talking about the comic book and the lore, that I think we've only seen a very, very small area of this planet, and of this, geographically speaking, I don't think we've explored much of the map. So I think
I
it would be
haven't
cool to
asked
have it.
Jason. Sorry, but I haven't asked Jason about this. Do you know, or have you ever talked to him about, like, does he have a map in his mind at all, or is that just
I
not
don't.
how he envisions it at all?
I mean, not in the way, not in a cartographic sense.
Okay,
No.
just wondered. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I would be curious to see it, though. Like, and I
me
don't know
too.
if that's yeah. So I don't know, but I think there should be. I would love to see it.
It'd be hard to. I'm sure that's got to be daunting too, to kind of lock yourself in and then
Hmm.
switch it up. But it really would, especially as we move forward past this first story arc after issue 5, and the world gets bigger, which he said a couple of different
Hmm.
times. The geography comes into play, and oh man, I would love to
Hmm.
see. I'd love to see it. So,
Well, he's talked openly about, the pirate guild coming in,
yep,
and then you're talking about trade routes and things like that, and then
yep,
right there, like, automatically, and airships, like air travel and stuff like that. So you're not traveling distances on horse-ish back anymore. You're talking about much greater distances. So yeah, I would love to see that. I lost my cactus. Do you know what kind of reptile Corvus is? No, I don't. Um, I think he's meant to. I think Jason had something in mind, but I don't. I honestly don't know what it is. Gresh is a gecko, but then I know that some of the alternate heads are sort of designed around certain animals. I don't know that Gresh necessarily was. I think it might have. He might be a reptile, and that that might be sort of like the full extent of the lead that Jason gave to Atama. Let's see. Nolan is here as well. What's going on, Nolan?
hey Nolan.
Eric Dry says, I was thinking Corvus was a species of monitor. Yeah, I think it's sort of in that vein. Let's see. All right, we're more or less caught up with the chat, so let's move on from this. I just wanted to mention one other thing that is available on the store, and you mentioned this in the Kickstarter update, but I mentioned this before when I was sort of telling Jason, hey, you should do this, and you should do this, and you should get this in there. But that was during the Kickstarter, and people are like, hey, let us pay for this stuff first, and then and then you can sort of jump back in. But if you have wanted to get t-shirts, similar to the ones that we've had at conventions or on videos or what have you, Jason's got a bunch of t-shirts up now, as well as a couple hoodies. The hoodies are fairly thin, so I've been wearing mine, in the evenings now, even though it's summertime. I obviously got the pirate hoodie, but yeah, they're nice t-shirts, and they're there on the site. Unfortunately, they can only be shipped to a US address. So you're welcome, fans in the United States. I'm sorry to everybody else. But maybe at some point we can sort of open that up a little bit wider. I don't know. The fulfillment for those is actually done through like a separate company, so they're like printed on demand,
Right.
and they basically only ship to the US. So
That's weird.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, in the first week, it was anyone. So some people did sort of get their orders in like really early, and the shipping was quite good. But then I don't know if they figured out that it was like too good or what.
Huh.
But yeah, I mean, if you want T-shirts and you're not in the US, reach out, and I don't know, maybe we can figure something out. So
Anybody want patches? I heard people are into patches, right?
I'm pushing for it personally.
Give it away as a tier on a crowdfund. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Nolan says only the USA. Boo. I know that some people want them. I know that in Canada a few people want them. So maybe we'll work something out. Maybe we'll get, an order shipped and sort of get it. Maybe if we get our order in, we can get it delivered to a US address. And anyway, we'll again, more of that for another time, because I would love to see more access for Canada as well there. But so yeah, that's it's happening in the background, but it's slow going because we're working on a lot of other stuff too. So
Yep.
Let's see. Let's just pull this down. Yeah, so there's just lots of stuff going on. Like I said, in the background, there's lots of stuff, exciting stuff that's happening. That's just, not, we're not able to share it for whatever reason. One thing, and Jason's not here, so I'll talk about it anyway. Sculpting on Mamba has officially started. There are work in progress pictures. And he is starting to come together. As of right now, the trunk will be bendy, so it won't require articulation to pose up the trunk. This eye, so full disclosure, elephants are my favorite animal. I have gotten involved on this one, and I'm just like, can we tweak this? Can we change this? I need this to be perfect for my own personal, sake. But I'm very, very happy to say that it's looking really, really good already. If the renders were really, really good. Those 2D renders were so good. So the sculptor already has a pretty good head start, I think. So that's going on. There's other sculpting going on for the birds. There's finishing touches going on for 3D sculpting of the alternate heads and things like that, and really sort of fine tuning things. I believe that all the paint masters, well, I know all the paint masters for wave 1 are already at the factory. Paint masters for wave 2, I think, are already starting to get there. So we're rolling. It's just like I said, it's not exciting stuff, and it's not stuff that, like, the update is like, hey, it's happening. It's not like we can't show people it. We could show people like a mailing, the box, right? It's like, this is going to China. There you go. That's the news.
I would argue, and I have argued with Jason's like, just take pictures. Because
Yeah.
people, like, anytime I put an update on a Wednesday on the Kickstarter, if it's just text, it's like, hey, we did this thing. You're like, yeah, who cares? One, who's going to read it? Two, you get a picture of him with a box, or, you actually sort of see the paint masters being packed up. Like, I would be into that, to kind of see it. That's just me. But
Yeah,
I think it's more exciting than us writing it out in a sentence.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree. I think it's one of those things where, like, in the process, I
Mhm.
think it's like something that it feels like a process to Jason.
Mhm.
And so it doesn't feel like it's worth taking a picture.
Right.
And then it's like, hey, can you take a picture of the final paint masters? And he's like, well, they're already gone. I already shipped them.
Right.
So it's like, oh, okay. So we missed that one. Okay, well, can we take a picture of this? And it's like, well, that's already done. And it's like, oh, okay. So it's sort of this funny, like we have to constantly remind Jason, who's the person that has access to the things that are worthy of getting pictures taken of them. Whereas we have to, we ask for things, and we do have a couple things to share today. So we'll get into those in a minute. But we I think you and I both have to kind of constantly remind him that this stuff is still exciting, and it sort of fills that, for lack of a better word, fills that void between the end of the Kickstarter, which is sort of the end of a news cycle in some respects from people sort of on the outside looking in, and these figures arriving. So just so that people know that there's something going on.
And we
It's
want to
good to
take
get the
people,
pictures out there.
right, take people along for the ride. We've been building the tribe, gathering the tribe, and all of that. Like, that's a Kickstarter process. It really is, as we've said. It's this sort of like behind the scenes people who are like really into it and want to support it and make it happen. That's not necessarily for general audiences, where we really are building up like the folks who are invested in this thing. So we'll get there. We'll get there. But yeah. And selfishly, I want to see that stuff. Like, I think it's exciting for people to know, like, what is that like to create a new toy line? And I am still convinced that Animal Warriors of the Kingdom is in a position to be like a huge IP in the future. And so to be able to go back and look at the archival stuff of like, hey, remember when Jason whatever was shipping this stuff off to China? Like, I think that's all gold. So I don't know. Anywho,
and to speak to his crimes, here he is.
There you go, man. You're
Hey,
on
how's it going?
trial. You're on trial.
What did I miss?
You got to go back and look at all the your ears burning.
We were just saying that what we get access to, like in sort of the chat that the three of us have sometimes of behind the scenes stuff. I think in your process, you just sort of forget to take pictures of things sometimes, and it's like,
yeah, I do, because I've got such a visual. The way my mind works is everything's like visually based first. And it's, I've got a mental checklist, and it's like, oh, I did that. And then it's on to the next thing. So it makes sense.
Well, I will make that pitch and you can go back and watch us. But as a visual person, how like visuals like are much more engrossing than listening to Adam explain something or me write something on the Kickstarter. So even if it was just a picture of you putting stuff in a box, I think people would be way more excited than to hear he sent some stuff today. So
I do have pictures of Dave receiving the Paint Masters that we've done so far. I have pictures of that, so I'll send that along to you guys, and y'all can share that.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah,
there's stuff that we haven't sent off, obviously. I mean, I'm literally painting Merrill. I started painting him this morning. I know he's just like rolled right into scathing. So
nice.
We'll be doing that next. Arlen showed me blocked out versions of Mamba. I don't know if y'all mentioned it or not, but we're going to go with the wire trunk. So, what he showed me is just essentially a straightened out trunk. And that's what production's going to get. But I did ask him to have something that's a little bit kind of like, slightly posed, so that when we show off the Paint Masters for that, it's a little bit more engaging instead of just kind of this, like it won't look so unnatural. That being said, that body is just blocked out right now, which means that all the articulation works and everything, but it's not as exciting because it is missing all like the skin textures and everything like that. The armor hasn't been sculpted yet, so it's just not far along enough for us to kind of show teasers images of it yet. The Merrill stuff that I sent you guys, I don't know if you mentioned The soft goods.
We haven't
Dan
gotten there yet.
Oh, okay. So whenever we
Yeah.
look at it, I'll explain. There is some placeholder stuff on that render.
Mhm. I Lost My Cactus said, personally, I'd love a behind the scenes of how this all got started for people who are inspired to try something similar. We are gonna see the sort of art of the making of book at some point. Again, I think that falls under the sort of umbrella of things that we wish we could get to, but don't have enough time for.
Right. Yeah.
But I know that Jason, you've been sort of working on that behind the scenes. To this point,
Yeah.
though, what I will say this. For anybody that wasn't watching last week when I mentioned this and sort of announced it, Arlen, who is a sculptor for Animal Wars of the Kingdom, among other things, and myself will be sort of partnering on another line. And I really love the behind the scenes and sort of the process, and so I'm gonna try as best as I can to sort of document every step, including the really, really boring stuff that we're sort of going through now, like registering an LLC and like figuring out all the
Right.
paperwork and all the frustrating, ridiculous, boring stuff that you just have to do all this. The things that people don't hear about, that they don't, care about either. Like, you can set all your pricing, and then when you sort of go to pull the trigger, the factory goes, oh, by the way, costs went up 20%. And the shipping company goes, oh, by the way, costs went up 374%. And you're just like, what? So there's a lot of boring stuff, but we'll try to do the cool stuff front and center. And then that stuff will be like, oh, and by the way, this crappy thing happened. Because I do think it is. I think it's cool. I think there's people that want to see that and want to hear about that. And I will say this: most of it is not as exciting and glamorous as people think, and most of it is harder than people think.
Yeah. It's funny you talked about the LLC thing. Registering a trademark is insanely convoluted and difficult. I still get emails about it, and I'm like, just get it done, So yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I kind of compare it to playing in a band where like people see the performance and they're like, that was cool, but they don't see like the practice during the week. They don't see the logistics of like setting up, sound check, taking everything off the stage, getting paid by the club, and then going home. All that stuff that the audience doesn't see. And I don't necessarily anticipate people wanting to see it, but it's cool that people want to see the behind the scenes stuff. I do think it's, anytime you want to take on any kind of endeavor, whether it be like a creative, I want to make a toy line, or I want to open up a bakery shop, or, maybe start like a car wash or anything like that. It's just very important to like, set small milestones so that you're like not overwhelmed with the scope of that project.
That's good.
And I'm sure Brick can tells like the students that whenever they have like a book report or some sort of like maybe like midterm or something where it's like, don't wait literally to the last night. You should be like working on these little milestones to get to, your deadline or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think and I think we Jason, I know that you and I have talked about this, but I think Brick, you've probably been part of these conversations too, where it's sort of like, it seems like running a toy company is like pretty straightforward and simple, but that's because what you see is simple and straightforward for the most part. Like you see the signposts that are like, here's the sculpt finished, here's the paint master finished, here's this finished. And it's like the visual sort of stuff, but so much of it is not about the toys in a weird way. Like so much of it is about the like daily grind of like running a business, and it is still a business, right? Like it is still. And I think a lot of people get sort of caught up in the like, I have a great idea for an action figure that would look really cool, and so by extension I'm going to have a successful company. And it's like, if you have a business brain that can sort of get you there, then absolutely. But and I'll say this, I'm not the creative side of the project that Arlen and I are working on at all. I'm the side that's like getting the information for registering LLCs and trademarks and all that kind of stuff. So
it's almost equally as important. They just can't exist. It's a symbiotic thing where the stuff has to get done. You know, it's just like you said, it's not as exciting, but it's equally as important.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get done otherwise, right? So that's the reality. Anyways, let's move on to cool stuff.
How's my reception, by the way? Is it any better? Is my internet any better?
It's good, but it cuts out for a couple seconds every couple minutes.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I was gonna comment that
way
like
better.
It's better.
It's
like you're clearer. We
now.
can hear you better. And but then, so did you switch to the whole satellite thing? Is that what's going on?
So when I first hopped on, I was on the
and now you cut out.
Mesh.
Jinxed it. Okay.
It's an internet mesh. And then I noticed it was cutting out. So then I just switched directly over to Starlink. The download speeds are like really fast, but I noticed that the upload speeds are like 22 megabytes. So I literally just set it up yesterday. So I'll have to tinker with it and see if I can't get that ramped up a little bit.
It's definitely better. I just asked about the satellite because I was with somebody else, and it seems like every now and then you'll pause, like the connection will pause, which is kind of a normal thing with satellites, kind of like reconnecting. But for the most part, like I can actually see the color ombre changes behind you.
That's funny.
If you held something up now, we'd probably recognize what it was, as opposed to before when it was just a messy thing.
This is not an AWOK figure. Oh, you know what? I will show you. Hold on.
Just move her less.
I don't remember who did this. It was in the fan page, but they put this helmet on Kali, and I was like, that works perfectly. Like,
oh, dude,
it works so well. And I was
Which helmet is that?
That's the Centurion helmet.
Yeah, the gold.
And I was like, well, I got to try that. So
did you just paint the stripe?
I did nothing to it. I just plopped it on there. Yeah, it's already like that. So I just put it on there, and I was like, oh, it's cool.
Man.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. So for anybody that doesn't know what that is, hold on. Hold on. I
just happen to have him next to me.
One over here.
And then this is Eric Harker's gorgeous soft goods. So
I need one of those.
He is doing Meryl's jacket as well as Scathing's skirting for the bottom of the figure. So yeah.
Nice. I want to ask you about that offline, about what that process is like. Cool.
If you just paint that stripe down the center, it's like perfect, hey?
It's by default, is it like a brownish?
Yeah, it's
stripe?
it's a brown, the stripe, but I think if you painted that stripe on the top to match the blue, you'd be golden, but it's already golden. So
now, is that the same helmet as the Chinari mold?
It is.
Painted? Different plastic? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's again, someone Star was saying it's AWOK is one of the best made figure lines I've seen, and it's a little awkward for me to say this because you're here, and I don't want to feel like I'm kissing your butt. But no, seriously, the fact that you can take those things and switch them around on different heads, and you've done it on some of the feline heads, is really cool. Like, what a cool feature. Intentional.
I didn't know it was going to work for the Kali head. We figured out that it was going to work for the cat face, for the Cordoon head. His cheeks are a little bit puffier, so it's not quite as a snug a fit, but it still works. And it really is kind of a callback to my love of the Masters of the Universe line. I don't remember what the original, I think it was 10 to 8 figures that came out. And it was a lot of part reuse. And to me, it just kind of really spoke, obviously, on their end, it was a budgetary, constraint.
Yeah.
But it is very much imagination fuel. And it's one of those things that I think is very charming about toy lines. And Origins has continued that. The Masterverse has continued it.
Yep.
It's prevalent in the G.I. Joe classified stuff. And so, I feel like we're in good company.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And it's you know, I think it's one of those things that's like that again, you know, I've spoken to you enough and I've spoken at length about this that like part of what really drew me in is how much you really prioritize this being a toy line and like like something that is to be played with and to be
Yeah.
kit
Right.
bashed and to be
Yeah.
like experienced as a toy, not as just like, oh, look how cool this figure is, let me put it on a shelf and have it just sit there
Right.
forever. Like
Yeah.
I think it's so cool that like I'd never thought to put that helmet on there. And Rick and I
Right.
were talking at the start about how like it's cool that series 2 is coming out because I'm just finally getting to the end of what I want from series 1, like where I'm like,
Right.
okay, I need one more pail and I need one more
Right.
collie and maybe like one other thing. And
Yeah.
then it's sort of like now I got a different body types to use and different, you know, animal species and stuff like that. And so it's
Right.
like you just keep expanding it. The sandbox keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it's
Yeah.
just like, I don't know. It's so much fun. And it's still, I'm just excited for what's to
Yeah, we
come.
want people to have fun with it, and I will say that, you know, what we did with wave 1 as far as like the potential for like reusing stuff and mixing and matching stuff, uh, you know, we definitely applied that to all the new stuff. Like you know, I just did like a fun figure kit bash just while I was painting other stuff. You know, and it uses parts from multiple different figures in the Kickstarter. And I was like, cool, that works really well. It uses parts from 3 different figures.
Mhm.
You know, and I'll just say that it's 2 different speedsters and a bird figure. So
Oh, is that the one that
it's,
we saw?
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
still haven't finished painting it. I mean, I had other stuff, like I had actual work to do. So I stopped painting it, but I mean, it's essentially done. So but yeah, it's cool to see how much use we're going to get out of these parts.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And and now we have new parts and so it's like, yeah, now you like kind of reset the whole thing, like where people are sort of
Right.
like, well, I
Yeah. We're
think
going
I've
to,
used all the parts that are available to me. It's like,
right.
ah, just wait, hold on one second. Here's a whole bunch of new parts.
Exactly.
I lost my cactus asked, are there going to be any good guy hyenas or reptiles or the species locked to an alignment in the lore?
So whenever they're introducing the comic book, um, you know, it'll be more of an overview where they're essentially the bad guys. Their houses are aligned with the horrid or what's left of the horrid. But certain characters will definitely have changes of heart and be, you know, become good guys without spoiling too much. And they also asked about my art background, I think. So my art background is fine arts and graphic design. That being said, you can learn all that stuff on YouTube for free. So, you know,
That's
there's a lot of great
I'm yeah.
open source stuff that you can learn. A lot of it's, you know, motivation and stuff, and learning from, you know, finding peers that are interested in it.
Yep.
And then also trying to find a mentor as well. So I had 2 really great mentors, Rob Guillory and Cody Chamberlain, when I was kind of like learning to get into art, like cartoon type stuff, like comic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, the 4 Horsemen and Boss Fight were very, very generous with their, you know, as far as like offering advice and whatnot. So, you know, it's always nice to have someone to kind of look up to and guide you a little bit.
Mhm.
Nice.
I think
Nice.
you know, and that speaks to something that I think is you know, another thing that gets not so much overlooked as it's just sort of like it's so obvious that people don't talk about it, right? Most people that are doing toys and sort of doing creative things are more than willing to sort of have a conversation about these things. So
Right.
I'm learning that too. The deeper that I get into this is sort of like I meet somebody that you know I'm like, man, this person does such cool stuff, and I meet them and I'm like, hey, can I ask you about X, Y, and Z? And they're like, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. And
Yeah.
then and
It's
and then
important.
and then you're playing
You know,
video games in a hotel room with them, and you're just like, this is
right.
crazy, you
Yeah.
know, like just
Yeah. I
you
mean,
kind of go from fan to sort of just, peer very, very
right,
quickly
exactly.
when you get
Yeah.
involved, because I haven't really experienced anybody that's like gatekeeping or trying to like keep people out
No,
anymore.
not really.
I think it's an
It's a
old thing.
very generous community. And I mean, I personally feel like it's like, I feel, really lucky and blessed. And I know there was a lot of hard work involved, but it's like, if someone else is interested, I feel, good, like passing along some of that knowledge
Mhm.
and experience. And, uh, I think a lot of people are afraid to make mistakes, and it's like, you make a mistake and it's like, oh, good, because you just learned, like, oh, hey, that wasn't right. But guess what? You learned like 3 ways to solve a
Yeah.
problem,
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
um, it's
And you sometimes you have happy accidents too, right?
right.
Sometimes you
Exactly.
learn something that you had no idea that you didn't know you didn't know. In a
Right.
way, it's
True.
sort of like,
It's true.
oh, I didn't think this would fit, and now it does, or like didn't
Hmm.
know if this sort of outcome would be the result of this bad idea that I had, but it's like, well,
Right.
but I was halfway through it and I decided to just follow through. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is a good one too. And after this, we'll move on to the couple of reveals we have. Star asks, or sort of comments, I wonder if the characters are ever going to explore or research their past.
So I very, very much want to do a one shot, which is just essentially a really thick issue that's like not in the story, and it's not taking place in the current story arc.
Mhm.
I want to do a one shot of Boone and Grimes, and then I'd also like to do a one shot of Kali before all the kind of like
Mm.
before the events of the first story come out, or the first
And
story arc, I should say.
and the Thane and Hannibal
Right, exactly. There's a lot of there's a lot
prequel
of
one shot.
right. Yeah, we'll get to see where the the animosity is from.
That's Brick and I have commented on that so much, how like there's clearly a ton of history there,
Right.
and
There's a backstory.
but there's nothing in the book right now that sort of gives you
Right.
any indication. But like
Yeah.
everything is like they're ultra competitive, but would
Right.
like fight to the death for each other. Like, and you're
Right.
just like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. But like,
Right.
but you
It's
you
almost
can
like when
sense it there. It's in there.
siblings are like arguing with each other, and some
Mhm.
like the neighbor kid comes over and's like, sides with one of, like, picks on one of them, and they're like, excuse me, type of thing. And
Yeah.
um as someone who's got ADHD and dyslexic, it's very relieving to know that, like, you write a story and people are picking up on all those little nuances and
Mhm.
little kind of Easter eggs that I've like peppered in throughout the story. So thank you.
All right, should we get these 2 reveals that we've
The
got?
cool stuff.
Yeah, let's take a
Which
look.
one should
Let's
we
take a look.
start with?
Let's do Boone first. I feel like it's not as big a reveal.
All right, let's see here. How do I share? Wait, I just realized I'm not sure how to share this.
Uh-oh.
Is it an image?
Yeah, I think this will work. There it is.
Look at that.
This is the alternate head for Boone.
Now it's the bottom one. The bottom one is the alternate head for Boone. Yeah.
So all goggled up, all pilot ready, airship pilot ready. And it's got all the full turnaround, so you get the angle as well. I'm excited for this. I really like that alternate head.
It's so fun.
Those goggles give me like I think the goggles sort of reflect the sort of steampunkiness
Oh,
of
yeah.
the character perfectly.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's the pirates.
I mean, it's funny because it's like, I want to have that. It's going to be one of those things where I need 2 Boons because I want one with that head on it. And I don't necessarily feel the same way with Grimes, because I feel like Grimes is like, he's going to have the cigar. That's the one that's how I'm going to display him.
Always, he's just always got the cigar.
Right. Yeah. So they said he seems angry. This is, to me, I picture this head while he was like kind of like blasting away with some sort of machine gun, whether he's like holding it or, you know, how they had those like that mounted like 50 caliber machine guns from the, you know, from World War II or whatever.
It's very, very, again, I know we do this all the time. We compare it and connect it to other things, but we can't help it. Rocket Raccoon.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a great comparison. Yeah. Or, you know, it's funny. I even think about the little Jabba's henchmen when they're on the sail barge and he like connects that thing that's like shooting. Like I think of
and then
that.
it jams up. Yeah, it jams up, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah.
The Nikto, or was it anyway? Yeah.
Yeah. So Star, so their ship is an airship. It's not like a traditional boat that's on water. So it's an airship. If you look at issue 2, they have like several airships. It's going to be something along the lines of that, but a little bit more steampunk influenced.
A little more piratey.
Right. It's definitely going to be used up, and it'll have like a kind of a mishmash of stuff that I don't want to call it like a hot rod where they, you know, like, but it's definitely been kind of chopped up and stuff has been added to it.
This is a good question, and I think we've kind of touched on this, but Ray Paz asks, was it harder to make the goggles as an accessory rather than include them as the alternate sculpt?
It was, and that's why we decided to do it this way. So, you know, Dan and Arlen and I, we all brainstorm like, what are the pros and cons of doing things certain ways? If you look at the ears, it would just not work. You know, the snout is too long. If you look at the profile, the snout's too long for it to work that way, sliding it on from underneath. And then the ears, where they're angled, are too long, or they're too wide for us to be able to slip the goggles onto it. So we decided to just sculpt it on. And we love the head sculpt so much that, and we, like we mentioned earlier, we want to be able to use it with other characters. We decided to do a version that is not wearing the goggles as well for future use.
Allison says he'd be happier if he smiled more. You're assuming he's unhappy. Maybe that's his happy face.
What's funny is the goggled face, I consider like a happy face. Like he is just so excited about like just like blasting, like just shooting hot red at some.
I see the top one as a grin. Like
right, yeah.
Side,
I mean, just like he's a
side profile, like this side profile, like yeah. I lost my cactus. How are you going to reuse his buck with the asymmetry of his robot arm? We've talked about that, but
yeah, we did. We're doing the organic arm as well. So you know, that robot arm's very unique to Boone. I say that, but I mean, there's other characters that have different, you know, mechanical augmentations and arms and legs and stuff like that. But you know, we weren't going to do a fox / raccoon / coyote buck without having an organic arm for both sides.
So is that the kind of thing that you actually not only sculpt the other arm, but you put that on the tool as well?
Yeah, so it's added to the tooling plate. That's great. And I mean, it's, you know, honest.
Dope.
We'll let him freeze for a second there. Star says, I'd like to hear the story of how he got that arm. I've proposed that one shot as well, the sort of like prequel story for Boone and Grimes, which would be you know, how do they meet and how does he get the arm and all that kind of stuff. I think that would be a good one shot.
That'll be in the
that's the one you've already sort of said. Yeah, that'll be in the one shot. Yeah,
it'll be part of the one shot. So I noticed I just cut out. I just want to say, you know, we got the Starlink and it's really good. But we do have a lot of tree cover that's like, you know, if it's windy or whatever, it's gonna like put leaves. We have someone coming on Monday that hopefully will take care of all that.
You mean cut all the trees down?
Not all the trees. They're gonna prune them for sure.
Oh, that's a good one. I hope we find that answer. I hope Jason doesn't actually answer this one. He says, any big enemies from his past? Is he wanted by anyone? I hope that'll be like.
I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah. That's exactly. Star's always digging. Star wants all the information right now, and Star was asking about a map for this region and like all. And I said we'll get
So
that stuff will
Utoma and
all sort of
I
flush
have
itself
a
out.
rudimentary map. Man, I need to find it. So what I did was I went on like an RPG type map builder, and I built it out, and everything's marked up and everything. I do have to find it so that we could understand where they're at geographically, and it's like what's butted up against what resources are kind of cut off from certain factions and stuff like that. And we do have a map, but I'd like for Utoma to actually draw it. Just a quick aside, I mispronounce everything. And my little girl and I, we went get yogurt yesterday, and I was talking about something. What was machi or something, and like I was mispronouncing it, and she was like correcting my pronunciation. And in my head, I was like, I can't pronounce anything. And it's funny because I tease my dad about it too. Like he mispronounces stuff too, and I'm just like, oh, Dad, and I'm doing the same thing. So here we are.
But in a weird way, I feel like that lends itself to your creativity because you can kind of just be like, I don't know what that word is. I'm just gonna put it in there, and it's just like,
I don't know.
Yeah. So there's Boone.
Before you head out, I
saw
today. Yeah. So today is before you go on, I'm gonna head out. Yeah, before I head out. So yeah, I've got it's kind of a big day. I've got to do some prep for giveaway and all that fun stuff. So I'll let myself out here, and I'll let you all continue with the monkey business without me. So I'll see you all probably later.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
cool.
and for anybody that's not aware, I would be shocked if anybody's watching this and not aware. Brick will be going and doing his show at 3:45 today. So in about half an hour, over on his channel, he will be going live to talk about a whole bunch of stuff and give a whole bunch of stuff away. So if you're not there, you better have a pretty good excuse.
So I'll see everybody later. Thank you. Boone looks awesome. Good to see you, Jason.
Great to see you, man. Bye.
I'm going to pull this one down and check in with the chat here. There was a couple things that people were asking. I lost my cactuses. I saw AWOK concept art deep on Instagram. And he was referring to the Fangtorn Knight, as Scott Baker has mentioned. Fangtorn Knight's still in the mix. He's in the comic books. There's, he's still in the list of to be made figures. I guess Hasbro would consider him like a pipeline reveal or a name only.
Yeah,
I guess
exactly.
A name only reveal.
Right.
We haven't actually shown, the actual figure or anything like that. But
and they're heavily featured in the second story arc. So
cool. I love those characters.
Yeah, they're really cool. I mean, I kind of see them almost as like the Crimson Guard to the Cobra Blue shirts. So what the Horrid has is numbers.
Yeah.
And what the Wolftorn brings is better fighting skills, better equipment, but a lot smaller numbers.
I lost my character. Says the armor was so sick. It really is. And if you haven't read the comic book, you haven't seen like the full gear that they have,
accessories and stuff. Yeah.
That's gonna have to be a deluxe figure. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, it's got to be.
Or there's got to, or I guess we could do it as like a accessory set, like a weapon set.
That's true. We could do the wings as an accessory set. That's a cool idea.
All right, let me pull up this last reveal.
I just read Allison's comment. That's funny.
Yeah. I'll pull this up, then I'll pull Allison's comment up. Allison said, in this case, a dingo eating your baby is not a good enough reason to not show.
It's funny.
That
looks blurry. Is that just me?
I don't know. I think it looks. It's a little blurry because I had to blow it up because it comes through. Yeah, just the way.
What's interesting is that the profile and the back don't look blurry. Maybe it's just my eyes. I don't know.
No, I know that you sent me the high res, but for whatever reason, like
Oh,
if I
that's
go like
why, because it's a big image. I
it's
forgot that it's a full turnaround.
yeah.
I see. I got you.
It's meant to have, all of
Right.
these on one image. So there's a
Yeah,
lot of
I
information there.
got you. That makes sense.
But this, as you were referring to earlier, this is Meryl. So this is the cardinal. This is the bard. This character has soft goods. So there's his soft good, that sort of placeholder, dark gray, nearly black shirt, as well as the skirting will be soft goods. Yes.
I'm so excited about that figure.
Yeah.
He's our first like non-warrior toy, so
Mhm.
I'm quite excited about it.
Yeah, I mean that's it's interesting because like there's other toy lines where people are like, oh, we want plain clothes people, or we want
Right.
townsfolk or whatever,
Yeah.
and this is sort of getting into that because this is a character who's ready to fight, but not a
Right.
fighter. Like
Exactly.
he's not one of the main characters that's sort of mixing it up with Kali or anything like that. So
Right.
I,
Yeah.
my question, I guess, is like, why Meryl and not a fighting bird? Was this just a preference thing? You just really wanted
Um, you
this
know,
figure?
I think I just kind of wanted to mix it up a little bit. Uh, and the challenges that come with adding this type of a character, I kind of do the callback of the Jabba's throne room figures where it's
Right.
essential for like a dio or like a someone who's wants to put together that scene, but they're not necessarily compelling on their own, like the big fat lady from the Jabba's palace,
Hmm.
essential for that scene, but not necessarily going to fly off the pegs.
Hmm.
So, with that in mind, I wanted to make something that was, potentially equally as compelling as like the champions and the warriors, but someone that was, kind of comic relief that was just going to be, there to kind of hype up the crew and just have fun and
Hmm.
that could hold his own when he needed to in a battle.
Any progress on the loot?
No, we're going to have Carter do
That's
the
gonna be a
loot.
tough one.
It is very challenging, you know, bringing the 2D art to a practical functioning accessory.
Hmm.
So not just yet. But we got the flask. Thank you.
JMax77 says the birds
What's
are
that?
super rad. Excited for these. I think everybody is. I mean, I think birds are a funny one because I think, and there's a lot of questions in here that I think relate to this, right? This isn't one, but just this is a valid question. Will those arm bracers fit on the cats? I'll sort of expand on this question. Will the speedster arm bracers fit on the pale buck?
No, they're
They're
noticeably
smaller.
smaller.
Okay.
So a couple of things about this figure. You can't see it in the image, but the way Dan has the straps, the wings will be able to be attached with the arm braces intact. So if you want them on there with the wings, it will still
Okay.
fit. So that's one thing. The second point is those arm braces will fit with the female figures. They will also
Hmm.
fit with every speedster that we have out right now, or that
Okay.
that we've shown so far. So every speedster, if you want that, those arm gauntlets are really cool. I
Hmm.
can't wait to paint them. So there's your just reuse that we planned.
Hmm.
Is now if you look at where the soft goods go, where that I don't know what to call it, the straps and the shoulder pads and everything, um, as well as his mid-section belt. Those are oversized in order to accommodate for the soft goods. So they might be a little loose on speedster figures. That
Okay.
being said, the shoulder straps might work for a bigger figure like Pale. We don't know I don't know just yet. I can ask Dan about it. but
It'll
it's going to
but
be a
it'll
little
also
loose.
be kind of hard to know until you actually have the stuff in hand, right?
Right,
Because it
exactly.
might look
Yeah,
like it'll work on paper and then not quite.
right. That's
It
it's
might not quite
very yeah,
mesh, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I put those raving straps on that other speedster buck, and it works. So we
mhm.
don't necessarily know if it'll work on this.
I yeah, the birds are going to be awesome, and the fact that they have wings, and the fact
So
that the wing,
fun.
like somebody asked, do they have wings? Yes, they have wings. The wings go on the arms. I love that. I think it's I personally think it's odd when things get wings on the back because that's not how wings work.
Right. Yeah, and we talked about it. Like Utoma and I were, we went back and forth, and um, I really liked the way that the 2011 Thundercats kind of handled it, where it was like they weren't in the traditional place on the back. But
Mhm.
like you said, it's just a weird thing. Like it's no longer a bird; it's more like a
Yeah.
griffin. If you do that, you know what I mean. So it was one of those things where I was like, no, it needs to be the arms need to be the wings, essentially.
Mhm. And I will bring this up again. I lost my cactus said, what type of reptile is Corvius? Is there a specific one that you that
Carvius is a very loose.
and you freeze right at the perfect moment. But when he's back, we'll get him to finish that thought and then answer the second part there. Will there be a like a bigger reptile? I think Jason's already said there will be a bigger reptile. We missed everything. He
Oh, I'm
is
sorry.
a and then it froze.
Sorry. Just do, and you'll be safe. No. So he's kind of like an amalgamation between like a Gila monster and a monitor.
Okay.
But like I am playing. There is an Easter egg of like the reptile leader in the second page of issue 2. So you can go back and check that out.
So go buy the comic books. Um that's like the best way to make people go and buy stuff. Well, I can't tell you, but I can tell you where to find it.
Mhm.
All right. All right. What else have we got? That's all I kind of had for today. But yeah, is there anything else you want to any other news that you want to share or any other
Yeah, we're going to be at ZoloCon next weekend in
mhm.
Philadelphia. It's our second ZoloCon. We're excited about it. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else besides that. If you are going to be in the area, we do have stickers that we're giving away, as well as other we've got like a standard sticker that's just essentially a giveaway. But we have a little bit more deluxe stickers that you get as you buy stuff at the booth. So
And then a couple more cons for the rest of the year.
we'll be doing Joe Lanta in
Mhm.
September. We're going to be doing the Dan Larson and Pixel Dan's Secret Galaxy Expo in October.
Mhm.
And then we will finish up the year at Legion's Con. So we're super excited about all of those. I'll be relieved once you secure the rental of the van for Legion's Con.
I already did.
Did you really? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't bother telling you because it was
So,
it's
okay.
sorted.
So
It's done. I got a van rented.
I think we talked about, I took 4 days off in July, like for the 4th, and it took me like 2 weeks to just catch up on everything. And then like the beginning of the week was kind of slow. And like, I was telling my buddy David, I felt guilty. I was like, man, it's kind of slow. I feel like I'm missing something. And then Diamond messaged us and he was like, and they were, our contact was like, oh, hey, by the way, we need the listing information for the trade paperback, which then reminded me we don't have the cover of the trade paperback done, which kind of made me panic.
That was
And
the
I had
same as
to,
when Brick was like, "Hey, this guy's asking about the extra headsets for the people that sort of
right. Yeah.
tops
So
off their
there,
backing," and I was like,
I was
"Ugh,
like,
yeah, I
ugh,
forgot to
right.
do it.
Yeah.
I
So
completely just forgot to do it."
it's those things that's spaced out on. I mean, like we have the artwork done, and I'm coloring it right now, and it looks so good. I can't wait to share it. But you know, like I remembered things that they weren't like on the priority list, and then they just fell off the radar. And once I remembered what I had to get done, I was like, oh, thank God, I can get it done, and like I'm not sitting here feeling guilty for just twiddling my thumbs for 2 days, you know. So
yeah, that's and we were chatting about that at the beginning with Brick. It's like there's a whole bunch of things that you know, have yet to be done, but it's not because we're sort of like not doing, like choosing not to do them. It's like we
right.
There's things that need to get done, you know, in the next 48 hours, and then there's things that we would like to complete at some point. And so there's always that sort of, you know, we're keeping plates up, and it's sort of like, you know, you have to pay attention to the plate that's about to fall before you can sort of necessarily move on to the next one. So it's yeah, and Solo Center found it. He says, FYI, second page of second issue is a treasure trove of Easter eggs.
Right.
Please make all of these background characters.
I don't even remember what all was in there, but the intent was their intent was to introduce Easter eggs of a lot of the future figures that we're planning on doing.
There's a ton of stuff in there.
There is.
So
there is. Yeah.
A couple of people have said owls. I would like to see an owl too. I think that's a pretty easy one, and I think that's a pretty that's like a lock, you know, like once you have the bird, it's not that's not much of a stretch. If somebody's like, hey, I want an ostrich, you're like, that's literally a bit more of a stretch, but
it is tough. It's almost the kind of thing where you know, when someone was asking about the giraffe, and it's like, you know, I feel like that's something that needs to be a full from scratch buck. And I think, you know, whenever we get around to that, it will be awesome. So
yeah. But it's not a, you know, it's not an if, it's a when. So it's just, you know, people gotta hang out and be patient and
exactly,
you know, hang out with us and chat with us and keep buying more stuff that can fund the next thing. And yeah, looking forward to it.
And I want to thank everyone who's collecting the comic book for their patience, because, you know, we offered issue 4 when it was done, and then we've held back on issue 5 because we want the print runs to do well. And we would just love everyone, you know, to support the trade paperback. It's going to obviously have the full story of the first story arc. I'm sorry. But it's going to have all kind of other cool content in it as well. So we would just absolutely love everyone to support us and get the trade paperback, and tell your friends.
Maybe that'll be a good place to like put the map.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. That's actually
like
a really good idea
to sort of add, because that could be a full page or 2 pages.
Yeah,
even. I mean,
it really could. That's a great idea. Good call.
Something to make it so that even though you've got, you know, all 5 issues twice, you know, or all 4 issues plus issue 5, then you still need to get the trade paperback.
Yep.
Anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again to Brick for joining me earlier. You know, as I said, he will be going live in about 15 minutes.
Fun.
So make sure that you go and hang out over on that channel, because this is his 2-year anniversary. He's doing some giveaways, including he's just giving away, I think, basically like he'll buy you whatever you want off the Spiro Toys website. So
what? That's amazing. I got to
like
do it.
One, I think one figure or something like that.
Okay.
So that's he's not like, okay, I want a series 2 wave 1 all in, please. I think it's like, you know, one figure from sort of the currently available stuff. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure. Jason, thank you.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
We'll be continuing to have these conversations in the background, and hopefully we get more behind the scenes pictures. I think that's the thing that we sort of learned today. People want more of the process pictures, just to sort of see what's going on. But
absolutely. Well, keeping that in mind, I will send I'll take whip images of Meryl as soon as I hop off. I'm gonna continue painting. I'm printing the lower and the arms right now, and then I'm painting the torso right now. So I'm literally painting it right now. So yeah, cool deal. All right. Well, thank y'all so much.
All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. It's always a pleasure to hang out and talk toys with you guys. The AWOK ones are, you know, especially fun because it's something that Brick and I are kind of particularly passionate about. And to have Jason along is a good bonus. So thank you guys, and until next time, bye bye.
Bye.